My Lords, the Government has a huge amount of sympathy for the rare and difficult situation that Alfie and his family are faced with. My Right Honourable friend, the Policing Minister, has undertaken to meet Alfie Dingley's family as quickly as possible. Both he and my Right Honourable friend, the Home Secretary, want to explore every option within the current regulatory framework, including issuing a licence.
I want to express my sincere thanks to the Minister for that very positive reply. I do understand from her reply that ministers are now united in wanting to find a legal way to support Alfie Dingley so he can receive the medical cannabis in order to lead some sort of life. The Minister, I just want to set out briefly the main reasons why ministers have to succeed in this one. The Minister knows that Alfie Dingley was suffering a very unusual epilepsy mutation, and this was causing 3,000 epileptic fits a year, 250 a month, under UK prescribed medications, which will lead to probably to psychosis, damage of his internal organs, and early death. Alfie Dingley and his family have spent 5 months in the Netherlands with Alfie treated by a neuropaediatrician with cannabis drugs. During that 5 months, Alfie Dingley has suffered 1 or possibly 2 seizures per month, down from 250 per month in this country. On the legal question, the Minister knows, sorry, can I say very briefly, knows that there is Section 30 of the 1971 Act under which licences can be provided. But I do want to express my profound thanks to the Minister and her colleagues in the other place for their absolute commitment to find a way under the law to enable this poor 6-year-old child to continue his life.
Well, may I thank the noble lady for her very positive words and acknowledging the positive way forward that myself and other ministers want to find for this little boy. As the noble lady says, this little boy has a very rare form of epilepsy. I'm very pleased to hear that his seizures have reduced, and I very much look forward to a positive way forward being.
My Lord, we know that the government has successfully licensed heroin-assisted treatment or morphine-assisted treatment, which is prescribed in a synthetic form to people who don't benefit or can't tolerate things like methadone. What we do know about this group of patients is the success rates in terms of health, in terms of social care, in terms of their incarceration, in terms of money saved. So there's a real benefit in terms of heroin-assisted treatment. Why can't this be simply put in place for cannabis-based treatment as well?
Well, with respect, may I point out to the noble lord that this question is specifically about medicinal use of cannabis for a very specific case. I think the noble lord is probably straying onto the legalisation of drugs in a controlled way. I'm not going there today because I haven't been asked a question about it, but I have had many debates about it, and the government remains of the view that such drugs that he mentioned are illegal.
Could I the noble Baroness, the Minister, for her commitment to explore every option. Is she aware of the legal opinion from Landmark Chambers which makes it clear that there is an exception under the 1971 Misuse of Drugs Act Section 30, which allows that a licence for possession of a controlled drug can be permitted for medical purposes? Will she make use of that exception to save this little boy's life?
Well, I hope I made it absolutely clear that we would explore every legal avenue that we could, that both the Policing Minister and the Home Secretary would be looking at all legal avenues within the regulatory framework. So I hope she takes comfort from that.
Could I ask my noble friend, could I ask my noble friend just to take a look at the history of how controlled drugs have been used for medical purposes? I'm not somebody who would support deregulation of drugs. But as a small girl, I was offered the option when a school dentist extracted a tooth of having either gas or cocaine. And of course, that was many years ago, but that was the choice. And of course, up and down the country today, hospitals will be dispensing opioid drugs to patients, many of which are derivatives of opium. And I really don't see why, if the legal framework is there to do it, we can't get on and do it rather quickly.
Well, my noble friend makes precisely the point that I perhaps didn't make as well, which is within this legal framework we have to explore the art of the possible in order to bring such drugs forward that will help people in the situations such as Alfie. Certainly Sativex, before I became a politician, I worked extensively with people who had multiple sclerosis, and Sativex has been produced for that purpose now in the aid of alleviating spasticity in multiple sclerosis.
My lords, my lords, crossbench. My lords, can I move away from the sad case that we've heard of the particular circumstances and move to a more general point on this issue, and ask the Minister whether she agrees with me that the time has now come for a complete look, urgently, at the situation. As many of us know, cannabis is currently included in Schedule 1 of the Misuse of Drugs Act as a drug with no medicinal value, and yet that view has been roundly rebuffed by a number of countries in the world. I cite, for example, 12 EU countries, shortly that number grows to 15, 29 states in the USA, Canada, Israel and so on, all of whom use under medical supervision licensed use of cannabis. So could the Minister assure the House that we will look, as a government, look at this issue, looking at the licensed medicinal use of cannabis in these circumstances?
Well, the noble lord has kind of nicely segued through the general use of it back to the medicinal use, but I have to concur with him in saying that we must keep laws like this under review, and certainly the WHO are currently reviewing cannabis as a whole and the constituent parts of cannabis, and he's right, a number of states in the USA have actually legalised its use. We are keeping a very close eye on the outcome of that review, and we'll be taking on a view on it in due course.
House to be in committee on the European Union withdrawal bill. Lord Callanan.